I also saw in the README for Create React App instructions for deploying with Firebase. If we look at Firebase, we've used authentication, we've used the database, but look, there's also hosting. Click there. Okay, a big fat get started button. That's what we want to do. We want to get started too. Let's get started. Okay, it tells us we need to install some Firebase command line tools using npm. In this case, npm is fine. You can do global installs with yarn too, but your path may not be set up for it. So just this one time, I'll let you use npm again. npm install -g for global Firebase tools. And what that does is it installs these command line utilities, and you can use them from any directory because we're installing it globally. It's not going to add it to your package.json. It's just going to install it so you can use these commands. So go ahead and do it. It may take a minute. If we click continue in the instructions on the Firebase console, it'll give us some more instructions. So now we have this Firebase command that we can run with the command line. Firebase login, so you log into your Google account so that it's your Firebase console you're dealing with. And then inside your project directory that you want to deploy, that you want to host, Firebase init. Let's try it. Firebase login. I already am, but it might pop up a Google authentication thing for you. Firebase init. Whoa. Now it has a bunch of questions for me. Don't panic. We can answer these. But also, in the Create React App instructions for deploying on Firebase, it walks you through the answers you should choose for all of these. But let's just talk through them real quick. Which Firebase CLI command line interface features do you want to set up for this folder? Press space to select features and enter to confirm your choices. We already have a database for this one, so I'm just going to select hosting. That's why we're doing this, right? Hosting. Configure and deploy Firebase hosting sites. Enter. Select a default Firebase project for this directory. So I already have my NoteHerder S2 afternoon. That's the one I want for this project. Enter. And here's the tricky one. Your public directory is the folder relative to your project directory that will contain hosting assets to be uploaded with Firebase Deploy. In other words, we can tell it, don't copy this whole repository to the server, just move this folder. Which folder is that? Which folder actually goes on the server where we want to run this thing? It's the build folder. That's the one that actually contains the minified, transpiled version that browsers can understand, right? It defaults to public. You want build. And now we don't have the same problem that we had in GitHub Pages. Configure as a single page app. In other words, rewrite all URLs to index HTML. Yes, that's exactly what we want it to do. It's a single page app. The answer is yes. File build index HTML already exists. Overwrite? No, we'll keep the index HTML we have. Thank you for asking. We don't want to lose our sweet fave icon. Okay, Firebase initialization complete. So what did it actually do? Now in my root project directory, I have two files, firebase.rc, or .firebase.rc, and firebase.json. Firebase.rc, okay, it tells us the name of our Firebase project that we chose during setup. And in this firebase.json, it tells us which folder we're copying to the server. So if you screwed that up, you can fix it here. And it tells us a rewrite rule for the server even. It says anything, any path whatsoever, rewrite to /index.html. Because that's what we want it to do. And that's what our dev server does for us when we run yarn start. Spoiler alert, not quite gonna work just yet. But let's go through what it says here. Okay, we ran Firebase login, we ran Firebase init. Let's run Firebase deploy. So Firebase deploy, after we've done this. Did anyone independently try to do this, by the way? Someone in the morning class actually did. Oh, well, you know one thing? I probably should have built first, because that's not going to do that for us. Yarn build. We'll fix our deploy script so that it does it for us. Remember, that generates that build folder that's going to get copied to the server. We want to make sure it's the latest version of the code. So don't forget that too. When you upload your code, if you want to deploy those changes, you're going to have to run deploy again. Okay, Firebase deploy. All right, here we go. Hosting URL. Noteherder s2afternoon.firebaseapp.com. Hot diggity crap. Hot diggity crap. Uncaught syntax error, unexpected token, less than. So here's the problem. And this is a tricky one. And you're lucky you're in the afternoon, so we've already worked through it. Remember when we first did GitHub pages? And in our package JSON, we put our homepage URL. Well, it now uses that to link to our CSS and JavaScript. And that's not where it is here. That's not where it lives on this server. It's not in /noteherder. It's at the project root again. So now that we're hosted on Firebase, we don't want this here. You could always go ahead and put that in there if you want to. Or you could just take homepage out. Since it is at the project root, because that's what was broken before. That's why we had to put that there in the first place, because it wasn't living at the server root. It was living at /noteherder. So now it's still trying to do it at /noteherder. And that's not where it is on Firebase. So change your homepage to match your Firebase URL, or just take the homepage out. Either way, but it's not a bad thing to have in there. So with that there, we could build again and then deploy, but we may as well also change our deploy script. Our deploy script right now that we added runs ghpages-d build. We want that to run Firebase deploy, right? That's our new deploy script. And there's already a pre-deploy in there to run npm run build, and we want to keep doing that. We still need to generate that build directory before we copy it to the server. If you didn't change the deploy script, you could still just run Firebase deploy, but you may as well make it so that you can run yarn deploy or npm run deploy. Let's see if that works. Yarn deploy. Because no matter where your host, then you're running the same command that we ran to deploy to GitHub pages, right? Doesn't matter what the host is. You just use the deploy script that's in the package.json. That's a really nice setup. Doing a thing, doing a thing. Okay, done. Let's refresh. Shift refresh so it doesn't cache it. Yay! We're deployed on Firebase. We're still using the hash router. And on Firebase, we don't have to, because remember, it asked us about a rewrite rule. Now it's going to always serve index.html, no matter what URL we request. Therefore, we can use the regular old browser router like we did before. So in index.js, you can change this back. We had browser router as router, and this was just router instead of hash router. Try that out. Run yarn deploy yet again. And you may notice, by the way, that it's caching your app when you go back out to the host and refresh. So you might have to do a hard refresh. Hold down Shift when you click refresh, or it shows you the old version and you'll drive yourself crazy troubleshooting. Deployed. I can get rid of this /sign-in and just go there. I'll do a Shift refresh so it gives me the new version, like I said. Now it's just /notes, not /notes. And it's not showing me my darn notes because it's caching it still. There we go. Now I'm on sign-in. Sign in with the Googles. And I'm signed in with the Googles. Click to a specific note. I've got /notes/ whatever. Let's open up a new tab and browse straight there. And it stuck a hash router route on the end still. It's still caching things, this turkey. Boy, it wants to cache. Let's try this one more time. I mean, the Shift refresh proved it really. But let's do it one more time. It did it again. Google, man, take my word for it. I really do want you to stop caching that. Sometimes. A second. Shift refresh that. And that works. Okay, so I refreshed this page, meaning it browsed straight to this URL, not just to the root, and it still took me to the right node. So we fixed our routing situation when hosted on Firebase. So yeah, you can't leave your package.json configured like you're doing GitHub pages if you're doing Firebase hosting. Pick one or the other because they need different configurations. So if you are doing Firebase, we don't need GH pages in our dev dependencies anymore, so I can take that out of there. Unfortunately, we cannot add React tools to our dev dependencies because if that's installed in your node modules folder, it actually breaks the Firebase API that we already have included. So that's disappointing, but that happens. So this commit configure app to deploy configure app for Firebase hosting. Very good. And once again, that is all in the README for Create React App, as is a whole lot of other stuff. It's not a bad way to learn about React in general. Just see how you would do some of this stuff in Create React App, and you'll learn a lot about the way React is structured by doing that. The README is your friend, and you should make your READMEs a friend to others. Tell them, hey, to set up Firebase hosting, you're going to need to install Firebase tools with npm-g install Firebase-tools. And then you can just deploy with npm run deploy. Right? You put that in your README like these nice people did so that other people can actually use your stuff. And don't forget, if you have deployed, put the URL on your GitHub so people know, and they'll click through, and they'll see, and they'll be amazed and wonder what kind of genius you must be. Questions? Firebase deployment? Yeah, Tom.
So why do you still so what's the major difference between a browser router and a hash router? So that actually you know that although Firebase can have the configuration of whether sending out a single page HTML or not, but there are a lot of maybe other servers that are not set that way. So that why would you still go back to the other one? You figure out that the hash router is still kind of
the hash router works everywhere, right? Yeah. So the question is, difference between browser router and hash router, and why did we bother changing it back? Because the hash router still worked on Firebase. The other didn't work on GitHub Pages. Well, the answer in this case is, this is our app and we're deploying it. So we have control over what server we choose. So we know we're hosting it on one that supports the HTML5 API for it. So we're configuring it the way we want. But if it were a project that you wanted other people to be able to clone and deploy without that, you still might prefer this as a default. I think search engines are getting better at hash routing, but like at least it used to be the case that, well, that's just the same darn URL with an anchor in it, so I don't need to index this as a separate page. But it's really a separate page, right? And with the other routing style, that's clear. It's clear that this is a separate resource on the server. So there are advantages to the HTML style push state in history, to use way too many technical terms. So we switched back because we're in control of the server and we know that it works there. But yeah, you might want to put a note in your README about something like that too, and say, hey, by the way, this uses HTML5 push state, blah, 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 blah. If you want to host it on GitHub Pages or somewhere, you may have to make this change. And since you probably didn't just memorize all of that in the last 10 minutes, remember, it's all explained in the Create React App README under the section on deployment. Section on deployment. You look at how to do GitHub Pages. It has a section on client-side routing, which is what we're doing. And has a link to a guide that goes into excruciating detail about how that works. Okay? Cool. Any other questions? That was a really good question, Tom. Did I answer it adequately? Okay. Any other questions about this? Okay.